second day of this conference. What I know is 2. Just to give you a little bit of a background into the conference, actually, which I didn't go into yesterday. So it's called What I Know is 2 because when I first arrived in the University of Stirling, I made it my mission to try and kind of get more involvement in terms of Wikipedia and Wikimedia technologies in the classroom, because I was on a bit of an open knowledge, open education kind of kick, I think you might call it. And I was very enthusiastic about it, and I still am actually, which is why I'm really thrilled that we've got a collection of speakers and participants today who are representing that world, Wikimedia. And that was in March of 2014 when I came to Stirling, and I put together a conference which was called What I Know Is, which is of course the kind of long form version of Wiki. This conference is kind of like a sequel to that. It's been a long time brewing, a long time coming. But the focus now is really kind of relating to open data and data literacy in relation to some of the knowledge building communities that kind of exist around those wiki cultures and open forums. So what I would like to do now is I would like to introduce our keynote for today. It's Dr. Martin Poulter. He is the Wikimedian in residence of the University of Oxford. He does other things as well, and I'll let him introduce himself more fully when he comes up here. And he's going to be talking about open data and working in the world of open data. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Martin Poulter.
Thanks, Doc. Okay. Brilliant, thanks very much. Hi, thanks for the invitation. Great to be speaking here. This talk is about how my job has been getting a lot easier over the years, and probably a lot of other people's jobs could be getting a lot easier as well if we adopt a slightly different mindset. So I've, in my career, made interactive online things to support education or engagement with research, or now increasingly museums and cultural heritage. An example of something I was asked recently. So a museum employee asked me, is there a database of artists who lived before 1800? We have biographical dictionaries of artists after 1800, but actually not so very good sources for before that, and we want to catalogue this older art. What is there? And I showed him this, and it's got 12,000 artists from different countries. You can organise it by gender or nationality, or organise it alphabetically. There's a search box. And he goes, oh, this is nice, this is useful. It's probably not complete for all artists. Artists in the medium of paint, that was the other criterion. But this is good to have. There's lots there. There's lots of different countries represented, and it's searchable. You can interact with it, and there are links for the individual artists. Didn't know that existed. Well, it didn't exist until I created it. I work with someone who teaches history of economics, and so I was able to make for him this birthplaces map of economists who are now dead. And it's filterable by era, so you can see the spread of economists across the world. So that's with physical space. There are other kinds of space. There are kind of intellectual and social space. So I have colleagues who are studying the Royal Society and the other early scholarly and scientific societies. This is a point at which I could do changing to the web browser. Is it Command Tab?
You should be able to just...
Oh, that's it, right.
And then...
So I made this visualization, and it's of people who were in the Royal Society in the 18th century. And lots of people who are in the Royal Society were in other societies, the National Scientific Academy of Sweden or the National Scientific Academy of France. But this is a stretchy visualization of those relationships. So if everybody here, all of the white dots are people, scientists, mathematicians, intellectuals, and then they cluster around the societies they're members of. So you can see who is a member of the German Academy and the Swedish Academy. And some of these are the most influential scientists and mathematicians of all time. So this is kind of an 18th century social network, and you can grab, and it's stretchy and fun. So all those things are incomplete. These aren't all the members of all these societies, but they're good to have. They're good to show you links between different societies to study this particular period. Another example, if you go to a Wikipedia article about an organisation, you'll likely see who the founders were. And then if you're interested to follow up who the founder was, you might see where they're educated. And that sparked off, well, could we get every organisation that's been founded by someone who studied at a constituent part of Oxford University? That'd be a kind of a way to measure the impact that Oxford University's had. It would be inaccurate, like all of these metrics of impact are, but it would be just interesting to have. And you could get it from Wikipedia, but you would have to click on tens of thousands of articles and follow through tens of thousands of links. It's kind of humanly impossible. But we can make a visualization and make a table with, in this case, 300 results, and it's easy to tweak for it to be another educational institution. So all these things in the past, like 10 years ago, would have been a project to make an interactive online visualization of some data set. You'd have to probably have a team of people, and probably have a manager, and you'd probably have to have a serious-looking guy with white hair involved so the management take it seriously and lots of enthusiastic people around it so the work actually gets done. And then there'd be different stages to it, where are we going to get the data from, how are we going to model the data, and then build an interface to it. This would be something I would have bid for money for to create in an earlier part of my career. And then you'd have to, for all of these projects, think about, well, how are we going to model, say, a person? What's the canonical representation of a person? How do we represent the difference between a person and an organisation and the relation between those things? But now we just do. All of those things, I'm not going to show much code in this presentation, but here's a bit of code. Each of those things I showed was a Sparkle query. Do we have many people in the room who know Sparkle? We have, okay. Sparkle is just a language for asking a question. It's a query language. And so any question you can frame, like what were the organizations founded by people who studied at some point at organizations that are constituents of the University of Oxford, that's a question you can frame. And then get a result. And the result is something online. It has a web link, you can share it, you can embed it in other sites, you can tweet it out on social media, people can modify it and tweet back to you a better version. So what's made this possible? It's not that information is freely available to the public. We've seen Wikipedia makes lots of information freely available to the public, but it's humanly impossible to answer a lot of interesting questions with Wikipedia. It's not that it's data, because you can have data but it not be queryable across different domains the way this is. If you express data in terms of names, there's all sorts of problems. These things in the slide are all called cancer: the disease, the constellation, the band, the academic journal. So you can't just ask for images of cancer. On the other hand, what do all of these people have in common? These are all the same person. These are all renderings in English of names, family names, formal names of this one Chinese person. So if I say, what do you have in your data set about Emperor Chengzu, and you've got him tagged as Taizong, we'll miss. So names are treacherous. This is the idea behind this phrase popularized by Google, things, not strings. If you look at Google, what they're trying to do is not to match your search query against a database of text and give you sites relevant to that text. They're using your search and contextual information about you to find what is the thing you're interested in, the thing beyond its names and the different forms of its names in the different languages, and then give you search results relevant to that thing. Still, in a lot of databases I see, library database and so on, people enter the author with a string. There's an author field or there's a location field, and then people type a string into that. And no, we should be in the age of things, not strings. You should type in your string, like Emperor Chengzu, and then it should say, do you mean this person, give additional information, and different candidates for that string, and then you say which actual thing you mean. So having data expressed in terms of things, not in terms of strings, well, you can have identifiers, you can have machine identifiers that are independent of human language, but there's a proliferation of those. So this is Jane Austen, the English novelist. She's known to the New York Times as person/Jane Austen. She's known to the British Museum as 17893. So again, all of these databases have different information about this person, but it's not semantically drawn out. It's not a shared meaning. This is like the web. This is like the internet before the web. There's lots of distant systems you can go to and get documents from. They don't act as a single hypertext document that you can navigate around. So the innovation that allows us to really use this and get the benefits of this is having an open standard identifiers. What's a standard identifier that works across all these systems for Jane Austen, and for identifying properties, the properties of authorship. What's the property of the relation between a novel and a novelist? Well, different systems will represent that in different ways. And if there's a common language that these different systems can talk to each other, then we can query find a grave. Where are the grave locations of people who have freely available text on Project Gutenberg? So the visualizations I showed at the start, they're possible because of Wikidata and its query interface, which succeeded in joining up. So all of these identifiers come from Wikidata. I'll talk a bit about how we use Wikidata within Wikimedia, and then talk about it more as an open knowledge project in its own right, and how it enables interactive websites, applications, other kinds of thing. So this is a conference about Wikimedia, so you've probably already heard that Wikimedia with an M is an umbrella term covering 12 projects. It's multilingual, freely reusable. About the data we're talking about, there are no restrictions at all on its reuse and adaptation. And it's aiming for knowledge as a service, which I'll explain later on. So for an example, there are 12 projects, but the 4 I concentrate on are Wikipedia, which is well known. Wikimedia Commons has nearly 50 million digital media files, video clips, photos, diagrams. Wikisource is a free library with hundreds of thousands of out-of-copyright texts. And Wikidata is the data equivalent to that. So to take a particular theme, you'd hopefully have a narrative article on Wikipedia about who this person was and what they're known for in life. In Wikimedia Commons, you'd have their portraits, their handwriting, their coat of arms. In Wikisource, if they've got out-of-copyright textual works, they should be there. And then Wikidata has relations between things. Lord Byron was a member of the Royal Society. And all these things on the slide are things with relations. So we can express there is an oil painting which is a portrait depicting this person, and its digital surrogate is on Commons. There are creative works by this person, and their full text is in this place on Wikisource. So we have potentially a lot of redundancy in that we're maintaining information about Lord Byron across lots of different platforms, just the basic facts of where he lived and birth and death dates and so on. So one advantage of having Wikidata is that we maintain all that information in one place and we syndicate it. I'll say, getting a bit into the gubbins, so Wikidata is a triple database. So it expresses everything in a triple: subject, property, object. So Lord Byron has child Ada Lovelace, But differently from a lot of, that's a common pattern for lots of databases, differently for Wikidata, the statements can have their own properties. So you can individually cite, you can individually reference every statement, and if there are contradictory claims, so you might have different birth dates in different sources for some historical figure, where you don't decide which is true. If they're both reasonably reputable sources, you put them both in, and it's up to the consumer to decide. You can put qualifiers in, so something may have started to be true, like the existence of the country may have started to be true and stopped being true at a particular point. And the other big difference between Wikidata and the other attempts at semantic web and other triple databases is that just anybody can create a new item or a new property. That's very different from the hundreds of other large-scale triple databases that there are. And I've said when I do a query, I normally find it's incomplete. I normally find, well, maybe there's thousands or hundreds of things in this result, but I know results that should be there and aren't. But I add some more. And the next person to do a query or similar query will see it's a bit more complete, but it's better than nothing. And they'll add some more, and it keeps going. So one advantage is maintaining all these key facts and figures in one place, and it's syndicating out to the hundreds of different Wikipedia and Wikimedia sites, but to anywhere else. I'll say how this works within Wikimedia. So this is an image on Commons, and it's an image of a thing and an item in a museum, and there are separate data about the object itself and the photograph. We don't want to confuse the date when the photograph was taken with the date when this thing was made. So in this case, the data at the top about the thing aren't maintained by the users of the database. It's on Wikidata and it's drawn in. So yeah, the fact it's made of brass, that it was made at a particular date, that's stored elsewhere and drawn in. Wikisource, this is Isaac Newton's profile. At the bottom are all of the links to his authority file profiles. So the Library of Congress, the National Library of France, National Library of Germany, these are not maintained on Wikisource by the Wikisorcerers. They're automatically drawn in from Wikidata. If something is found to be incorrect, it'll be changed in Wikidata and it'll percolate out to these sites. Wikipedia, English Wikipedia is very cagey about using Wikidata to generate articles, but you will find bits that are generated from Wikidata. So radio telescopes, this info box at the top of the article, which is key facts, again, that's not maintained. You won't see code for this in the article. It's maintained elsewhere and drawn in. So we can have the same info box in different languages. We don't need a human to translate that info box into French. We just need them to translate things like month names and field names. A lot of Wikipedia consists of list articles, especially when we talk about culture, say the list of works by a particular artist. Ideally, they'd all be written by humans with rich detail, but the smaller Wikipedias have a smaller volunteer community. They can use Sparkle queries and a bot to generate en masse these lists. But the real potential of Wikidata is making the web better, making everything else better, not just the sites that Wikimedia runs. Before I get to that, I'll say some facts and figures about scale. These numbers are impressively bigger each time I give this presentation, which would be, so 4.3 million human beings. That's one of the biggest authority files in existence for human beings, 1.5 million organizations, all the science stuff for the scientists, millions of them. This is a scan of what Wikidata knows about round here. And it shows this is a pretty historic city. So not every building deserves to be in Wikidata. It's a secondary database of things that have been published about. But buildings of particular historical interest or the headquarters of an organization, a location can be notable like that. The red ones, by the way, lack an image. If you take a photo of one of these things and upload it, it becomes a green dot and you add to the that kind of model of the world. And if you do it this month, there's a competition which is still running until the end of this month. Let's zoom out. This is a bit out of date, but you see there's many millions of places. There's an uneven coverage. You see kind of the blazing white heat of Northern Europe. Other bits of the world that are very historic, like Eastern China, not so well covered. And a lot of the work we do as Wikimedians is kind of trying to flatten that bias and coverage. But knowledge as a service, so that's the stuff that's on offer. We're making that available as a service to make it easier to build applications, interactive things, so you don't have to have a stage in your project where you build in the knowledge about the world, the knowledge of relation between things. Have you encountered Historypedia so far as it's been mentioned in this conference? So this, I really recommend looking at this. This is a JavaScript library which creates interactive timelines based on a Sparkle query. So here I've done the works of Voltaire. But this could be a front end to any database, like a bibliographic or biographical database, but it makes a Wikidata query visible in a particular way. So the programming that's gone into this, it's very clever user design, but it's the sort of programming project that in the past would have been involved in creating one interactive timeline. But what they've done is create a library that can be reused to make an astronomical number of different interactive timelines for literary works, for battles, for albums by an artist, and so on. So this is a great way to make this tangible and make kind of educational objects out of what might be library data or research data. I'm very concerned at the moment with museums. Like I said, library museum catalogues can be kind of insular things. I'm concerned with the collection, but the catalogue is immediately about the collection, the things in the museums, but it's implicitly about the world, and it's about periods of history. So the collection of the Museum of the History of Science is implicitly about the Enlightenment in Europe and the golden age of Islamic science and so on. So we could be reconciling these databases with other like geographical, biographical, bibliographic databases and making those things, the people and places that users are actually interested in, those things could be the finding, they could be the path that leads to people finding out what's in the museum. With Art and Ashmolean, once we reconcile the authors and people connected to that art, we can create profiles for them because there will be like art databases or artist biographies. We can get pictures of the artists. So they've got a big image database of works by these artists. We don't see what the artists look like because they haven't got portraits, but we can get from Commons, Wikidata will tell us which is the file on Commons which depicts this person. And those create profiles, a kind of social network. So this person was the mentor to this other person. This person appears in a portrait made by this other person. The museums themselves don't really have the capacity to maintain biographical databases. They will write biographical information, they will write articles about some of their artists, but not for all of the thousands of people represented in the collections. But other people are doing that, and there's no reason now in the linked open data web not to be doing that, not to be joining this up. This is from the Museum of History of Science. So these are astrolabes, and sharing some surface level data about this collection enables to give a map or a timeline or a biographical list of the people involved. So one of the projects I'm working with is about a book of art, a book of botanical drawings from the late 18th century. And so you can see it as an online book, and you can page through the book to get the different pages and the different diagrams. But that's not the most logical or helpful way to browse that set of data, because the paintings depict plants. the plants have species, the plants have biological relations. So different plants are different species, members of the same genus and members of the same family. Plants have common names. There's the name that scientists would know it has, but there are names that gardeners would know that plant as. Great, thanks. So, and these plants were discovered and drawn in an expedition through the Mediterranean. So there's a timeline component to it, there's a geographical component to it. So if we're interested in it as an example of the history of science, we can actually look through where in the Mediterranean they went and then click to get the paintings that were made in a particular location. But maybe we're interested in the families, that like the biological context of which families the species of plants were in, or interested in common names of plants. This is all provided by Wikidata. An art database doesn't have this. An art database doesn't have like a tree of life and tell us about species. So we need a database that's an art database and a species database and kind of bibliographic database and geographical. And that's what Wikidata enables. Yeah, I'll go back. So these are the common names. So we share some data just about the collection, and then we get a whole lot more back that other people have shared, and then that's the basis for creating pathways or creating new ways for people to explore that data set. I should stop clicking this. So my projects are quite small scale. I'm interested in niche things and creating a visualization of that niche and sharing that. But there are really big projects ongoing that people are using Wikidata for. So ultimately, we'd like to have kind of all notable art. We'd like to have all publicly accessible paintings, all the illuminated manuscripts of different library collections and so on. So we've got hundreds of thousands of artworks so far. There's more that could be done. As we've seen, where we can scan individual cities and find monuments and then say, could people go out and photograph those monuments? And people are doing this all over the world, from war memorials in this country to monasteries in Thailand and so on. So that's a huge project, but that's a lot of the work of the Wikidata community and partners is going into that. Citations. So citation data, it could be really useful, and a lot of it is locked up in databases that are proprietary, that belong to a particular publishing consortium. Under this initiative, Open Citation, tens of millions of citation relations between publications are being shared. At the moment, it's scientific papers it's focused on, but it could be it could be kind of all literature. I'm interested in historic books and say different editions of historic books in kind of the Enlightenment era and Voltaire and so on, and influences. And as we had that social space of different scholarly societies, we can have that space of influence between different intellectuals or different works. That's a huge project. It does have major publishers working with it. Imagine if a paper is retracted, or it's independently fact-checked, or something is found to be terribly wrong with some source. What happens at the moment is something will be posted on the publisher site, something will be published on the journal site that this is retracted, and if people notice that this other paper cites that thing, then when somebody notices, they'll put a note, say on a Wikipedia article. Now imagine if it's all automated and tracked so that when the initial paper is retracted, that percolates through the system. So anybody looking at a Wikipedia article or anything else that cites that first paper, they get a warning. Something flashes up, this is based on information which is now discredited. That would really help with the info literacy and fake news situation. And so people are building tools to look at this data set. So Scholia is, I'll share all these links online after so you can peruse all these tools and have fun with them after this session. So There are different competing systems to build profiles of researchers and to get their dates of publication, what they've published in, topics they've published about. This is Wikidata based. This is totally open and totally open source and using a data set that's totally free for everybody to use. So culture, publication, a really recent feature added to Wikidata is describing lexemes, describing items of language. So there is this word, it's part of the English language, it has different forms, these forms can connect to different senses. So we could, there's only thousands of lexemes in at the moment, but there could be millions. They could be like all human languages described, the different forms of each word, the different uses of each lexeme. This is a project I love. My Society, the charity, are doing a project to describe legislatures, to describe people in elected offices. So elected offices and their holders and positions like cabinet minister all around the world. And so they will have a team of volunteers in Nepal to describe on Wikidata the Nepalese parliament and different people are looking at elections, so you can say who is responsible for this aspect of policy in this country and when were they elected and what majority did they have. And that can be made available to different forms to people to kind of promote democracy. If you're a political researcher and you have any of this sort of data, please share it with them. I think it's a very valuable project. I've got some, how much time have I got? Got some, plenty of time, right. Yeah, I've got some more suggestions or more things that are going on that are more embryonic. Wikidata doesn't really have time series data. So the population of a city over time or economic data and so on, but it can have some of those data and it can point to sources of those data so you can get queries for things like fertility rate. UNESCO, you see that are sharing some data on Wikidata. It would be great to have some overview of time series data. At the moment, it is kind of siloed. There's someone who works with economists that, yeah, you go to different places for different categories of data. And it'd be nice to query, show me the fertility rate of countries that have people in them who fit this other, what are the demographics of countries that produce the most novelists. The Smithsonian has started a project on depiction. So I've mentioned you can say what an artwork depicts, and you can find things in comments. I query what depicts the Buddha, and they'll say, well, like this golden statue and this bit of an illuminated manuscript. But there could be depictions of what does a particular part of a particular artwork depict, and then query, so get me paintings of candles, or get me crowd scenes, or get me the English Parliament of a particular year and tell me which people are in there, and then query the political data. Tell me how did those people get into Parliament? Were they landowners and so on? This is a project for educational games. Again, so it's like Historypedia. He's not created a game. He's created a platform in which people make games. So you specify some Wikidata items, and if you put two together and there's a relation between them, like is capital of or borders, then you get like that black box which link between them. And the task for the user is to like join up all of the different items. So this can be about geography, but this could be about numbers or philosophers influence each other. It could be really abstract or really concrete. It could be any educational level. So there's a great opportunity for creating, not just presenting people with information, but presenting people with incomplete information and making it a game for them to organize it and complete it. In parallel to what's been done with politicians, I think there's a great potential for a kind of web of rights and web of laws. So there are so many thousands of treaties and laws. The text there is it's from Wikisource. It's the ratification in the Indian Parliament of an international treaty that India was signature to. So you could describe there is this law, its text is in this place, it is the ratification of this treaty which decided at this event and decided in this place, and these other countries are part of it. And the law was challenged in court, and the court case was presided over by this, and the result of the court case was such. This could be in parallel to the politician data, so you could have a legislature and described in Wikidata and the laws it passed and the challenges to those laws. Give people a web of rights, give people a mobile app which says what rights do I have, what responsibilities do I have, how are they established, how recent are they for any part of the world. And two things Oxford University has done. We've shared data about thousands of doctoral theses with pointers to the full text online. There are thousands there already, but it's a bit patchy. I think there are other projects just starting to kind of bulk share thesis data. If we had this from lots of different universities, at present, universities have their own research repositories, and maybe each of them will have their doctoral theses. And so to find all the doctoral theses, you do a search in one university's database and then go to another database. Or there's Ethos, which is a data that the British Library runs and has some UK universities. We want to do something really ambitious and have doctoral theses from wherever they're published. And a lot of these, the people who've published these theses have gone on to be public figures or academics, and we get a bit of their intellectual history. What were they interested in at the start of their career? I've got a data file on my hard disk which is about thousands of poems, already thousands of poems in different languages described with who wrote them, what language are they in, what publication, book or magazine were they first published in, where is the full text, where's the pointer to where I actually read the poem. We could do that on a bigger scale. We could and then make an app which is poem finder, poems about a particular topic of a particular form across different repositories, different places on the web, different cultures even. So those are two things that we're starting, but we hope other people will contribute their own share and then make something that no one institution could make. And that's the end of the talk. My recommendation is learn Sparkle. Sparkle is kind of the lingua franca. It's the way you ask questions, and asking a question in this language is the key to building applications, finding out what's there. Or if you're one of the serious white-haired people, get your team to learn Sparkle and tell them what queries and things you want them to build. I blog on the Bodleian Digital Library blog, and that's my Twitter. I'm happy to take questions from now on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that talk. I'd like to invite everybody in the room to maybe come and ask questions or comments or suggestions.
I have a comment. Talking about Wikipedia, I am a professor at a university in Montreal, and I teach to engineering students, and also to the Faculty of Education and PhDs and master's degrees. And well, talking about students, we have the feeling or the perception that the quality of information you have in Wikipedia is not, quite scientific or
Right.
proved, or I don't know how to say it. Not always for the scientific studies they have to do, or thesis or whatever. And however, I must say that it is a good source for a beginning to gather information, there's a starting point.
Yeah.
So then you can go further looking for more deep information or quality. So what can you comment about that?
Sure, yeah. So this comes up again and again with academics. So you're absolutely right. All of the things I'm talking about are works in progress. including especially Wikipedia. And there's a huge proportion of Wikipedia which is just the beginnings of an article, not a, there's like 0.5% by their own ratings, which is comparable to a professional encyclopedia in quality. So you're right that its intended purpose is encyclopedic. Its intended purpose is not a final step, it's an initial step. So you're supposed to just get some key facts and an overview, maybe a definition of what this is, and the key references, the key pointers to the formally vetted, published sources. So that's why I mentioned citation data. You could ignore the content of all the Wikipedia articles and what they say, but look at what they cite. Because if a paper is cited by the Wikipedia article on civil engineering, well, it's probably central to the subject of civil engineering. So you can get the significance and like a measure of, an imperfect measure. The Wikipedia article will also link to artist databases, library databases. So you might ignore the content of the article, but use these things to navigate to, say, the Find a Grave database or the Library of Congress entry for Jane Austen. So also Wikipedians themselves, there's a quality rating. So Wikipedians themselves are actually very kind of harsh on the quality of Wikipedia, but it's not obvious because you see the article. If you click on talk at the top of the article, you'll see a quality rating. So there's a quality scale, and like half of articles are in the bottom level of the quality scale. But people are discussing on these talk pages, they're not discussing the issue, they're discussing the article, reviewing the article and suggesting how it could be improved. And you'll often see, browsing Wikipedia, like citation needed. This section doesn't have enough citations, so you can check it. Or this is written non-neutrally. This is written like an advert, not an encyclopedic style. So there's that continual informal review, and it's a very different mindset from the traditional academic mindset, because you expect a draft is secret, it goes for review, and it goes to different stages of review, and an editorial decision made, and it's published, and maybe published with some proofreading, copy editing, and style consistency. And the same things are happening in Wikipedia, but in a different order. So we are publishing, we are copy editing, having a style guide, having editorial decisions about whether it's reliable and whether it's in scope of the encyclopedia, but all in a different timescale. So it's a different mindset, but it's a really productive and efficient mindset. So they've made the biggest encyclopedia that's ever existed, and it's 30 or 40 million articles. If it worked on the nothing was published until it all been checked, it really wouldn't exist, or at best it would have a few thousand articles. So it puts the burden on the reader to think about quality scale and think about, is this, you can't take it as written in black and white as the expression goes, so it's got to be trusted. This is somebody's summary of some sources. So you've got to think, are these the right sources? Is this a fair summary, or does the person writing the article have an agenda? And that's what you can do. When you raise Wikipedia in educational context, hopefully you can get them to, you can say, yes, it's not automatically a reliable source. You've got to think about it. You've got to look under the bonnet. Somebody shows you a car and it's nicely clean and polished, but you look under the bonnet, maybe the engine's all frozen up. And there are things we can do for that with information, thanks to the transparent process of Wikipedia. So you get a traditional publication, a textbook, a journal article, there was probably editorial decisions, there was probably influence brought to bear, there was probably horse trading, who's going to be the lead author, there's probably different internal politics got into that, and you don't see that, you don't see the process, you just see the end result. With these sites, I'm talking about Wikidata, Wikipedia, they're continually being edited and each change is public. So you can see, if you learn where to click, because it's not obvious, it's not well designed, you can see, oh, this is part of a war. There are different factions trying to pull this controversial article in different directions. Or you can say, oh, this is very stable. This has been here for years, and the only tweaks made to it are very minor, like spelling corrections and so on. So it's a different mindset, and it's a different way to consume resources. It isn't just passively consuming, it involves critical thinking, but that's a great opportunity for university-level education, to think about the source, look at the process, what has led to this being in the state it is. Is it just somebody's bias and agenda, or is it different influences coming together? And tolerating things that are imperfect. Like I said, all the things I've talked about are incomplete. Maybe a proportion of unreliability has crept in, but it's so much more useful than nothing. It's so much more useful to have 12,000 artists than no artists. So it's a bit scary. We've got to take that leap. Yeah, thanks. That was a talk in itself, wasn't it? Sorry, Wikipedia is another issue that I give workshops and what's not about. Hi.
Hello. So first you said about the info boxes in the English version being changed over slowly. I actually thought that all the info boxes were now powered by Wikidata. So what is the state of that? And is it different in different languages?
It is different in different languages. Yes, it's especially among the smaller Wikipedia. So I gave Catalan, or Catalonian Wikipedia as an example. They're very passionate, and they're very passionate about the identity of their language, but they have a smaller volunteer community. So they really welcome these tools that give them loads of articles and able to give Van Gogh's art and someone else's art with automated tools. English Wikipedia is more for different. It's kind of the most resistant one to have things done by bots, or to have article content supplied by bots. So it's been done on kind of a topic-by-topic basis. So I gave radio telescopes. Radio telescopes, you can rely, the info boxes are driven by Wikidata. Something like composers probably won't be sort of resistant to that. And for a good reason, because like the diameter of a radio telescope, well, that's a fact. You can look it up in a source that will give you the exact thing. But which movement was which artistic movement was Mozart part of? Well, there's no definitive fact. There will be different sorts and schools of thought, and it's not like a definite fact like the diameter of something. So, and if you've got more human users and contributors, then you don't need bots to maintain everything. There's still DBpedia, and DBpedia extracts. It does the reverse of what Wikidata does. It extracts facts from info boxes to make a database. So in the long term, there'll be kind of less need for that. If the info box is generated from a database, then we don't need DBpedia, but DBpedia has other functions. It's still quite a central site to the web. Get involved in the debates. If you think this is good, it's good to just get better value out of volunteer effort by getting info boxes in French and Latvian and English from the same shared data, then take part in the debates and get that decision made. Sure.
Yeah, I was also wondering, you touched on, you sort of showed the map and sort of lots more data about sort of Western places. And with the main Wikipedia articles, I know there's been sort of criticism about sort of biases and where, I was wondering if there's been a similar kind of, like people looking at Wikidata who were saying this thing.
Absolutely, and part of the motivation for making those maps is to look at the kind of success of Wikidata, but also to look at imbalance and inequality. And I haven't mentioned gender and other things, and that's a huge issue in Wikimedia that so much of our effort goes into that it's what 15%. It's 17. It was 15%. It's more now of biographies of people are biographies of women. Again, this comes back to the transparency issue, that there are similar biases in traditional publishing. So there is many things described in Wikidata and Wikipedia in the Netherlands as there are in the whole continent of Africa. And that's because there's lots of history and civilization and culture in Africa. But also, look at traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is mainly North European corporations. So there's more scholarly publishing going on in Netherlands than in the whole of Africa. In traditional biographical databases, there's a really small proportion of women. It's scandalous. Somebody, I saw somebody post about some, it wasn't even a historical database when women wouldn't have public office, or it was current artists, and like the artists whose works sell for millions, who command the best, and like there's a few percent of the women in that database were women. When the process is transparent, when it's really easy to write a query that gives you the percentage of women, then you see the bias. Proprietary systems and systems that are incompatible with each other, or you have to pay to log into them, make it harder to do that query that says, well, what is the bias, what are the proportions of different things in that system? So does that answer your question? Was there? Yeah. So yeah, we see the bias and we see it in different forms, but at least we wear it on our sleeve and we make it auditable.
I just want to come back to your, because this feeds into data literacy, actually saying that because the approach of Wikimedia is open, you actually have to involve some critical thinking. So is that actually one of the, I know there's lots of Wikimedians in residence, is that one of your jobs, if you like, is to get across that Wikimedia is a critical thinking information resource?
Yeah, so there's kind of a dual role being a Wikimedian in a university, because I have these conversations where I realize it's very different from the publishing process you're used to, but it's valuable and it's kind of, it puts more critical thinking burden on the reader, and that's a good thing. But also, it's really familiar. When I describe the values and processes behind Wikipedia, I'm describing normally academic values and processes. Say the way we make decisions. So Wikipedia is not a democracy. You may hear this thing that's democratizing knowledge, and Wikipedians hate that, because that implies that it's a vote, that knowledge is decided by vote, and we do not believe that. We decide knowledge is decided by the most reliable source. So if loads of people in the room have read the Daily Mail, which says that coffee causes cancer, and one person's got a Cochrane review that says coffee doesn't cause cancer, a review of medical evidence, we don't go with the majority, or we don't compromise and say, well, coffee causes a bit of cancer, let's meet in the middle. We say, let's go with the most reliable source, that person wins the argument. So we don't vote, and so we have decisions taken in this way. We balance the arguments and the sources for and against a decision. Everything being auditable, public but hard to find, but it is happening in public, auditable and challengeable. The decision will be challenged on basis of new evidence. So in a way, it's like, I know this is weird, but actually this is kind of the values of the academy and the process in a new platform, in a new way. And maybe it's more authentic than academic institutions themselves, which can be very managerial and very kind of got tension with academic culture, I think, maybe controversially. So it's fun, yeah, it's fun. There's a whole spectrum of responses, from a lot of hostility and kind of fear to, well, this is what I've always wanted. This is exactly what I want my project or my education activity to happen in.
Thanks, Martin. I think it was really fascinating. I think it's more than a question, it's a reflection. I co-organized the National UK Data Journalism Conference, and I think 2 years ago we organized a Wikidata session to show how Wikidata can be used by data journalists to report. So everyone was mind blown by the possibilities, because I think when you think of research that is being conducted using Twitter, pretty much Wikidata also offers you an opportunity as a researcher to understand human behavior, how community building happens, and the reliability of that. And that reminds me of another conference where Google, who has been another company quite aggressively trying to reach data journalists to help, to kind of ask them to use their tools for the purposes of data-driven reporting. I remember asking them, how open are you about sharing your data? And they were they were unable to actually explain that. Whereas with Wikipedia, Wikidata, everything's there to be checked and corroborated, I think. So what's your view on it?
So there are different tools with different roles and different strengths. Wikidata, because it doesn't have data about private individuals, and because it's secondary data, everything in Wikidata is the outcome of some sort of publishing process. So I couldn't just say count the tweets about this conference and then put that on Wikidata. There'd have to be something published. So Wikidata isn't kind of the primary research platform, say about what people are doing on social media, but it can say identify an interesting set of places which have particular property, identify an interesting set of people which have a particular property I'm going to study. I want to study, works that are available full text online that were written by female historians who were in England in the 17th, so that sort of thing. Or I want to identify social media companies that are headquartered in the United States that have market capitalization more than such and such. And maybe that's the starting point for a research process which involves collecting data from other sources. And maybe Wikidata will give you the pointers to and the identifiers to. So yes, because it is already published information and it's not about private individuals, it can be given without any restriction at all. Zero, there's no kind of database rights issue. Maybe there is with some public figures, but but we have the sort of the luxury of being able to do that. But you need other sources as well, and you need to actively collect data yourself from other sources.
Thank you very much.
Martin, that was really interesting, thank you. I guess I've got two questions. One's a general one around, you've got a group of people in the room here, what would you like us all to do to make things better? So that's a kind of call to action. And the second is a specific one, which ties into that, which I think is that I recently got access to a Canadian guy's life's work on jazz musicians. So he maintains a mailing list, he sends out a daily mailing list, which is based on a Word document. He's got 366 pages of Word document, and each day he cuts and pastes something into an email and sends it out to everybody. And he maintains that of dates of death and whatever. But it's pretty unstructured, and I've now been working at it, and there's 5,755 musicians in there, many of whom are not represented online in any way. And I just wondered, in a practical sense, what's the best thing to do with this to feed that into Wikidata, for instance?
Great, thanks. Firstly, what I want people to do, if you maintain a database, so I encounter people who have research database and they're geographical or they're bibliographic or whatever, find out what the Wikidata identifiers, which is a Q and then a number, of the things in your database are. And that's useful to you. That's useful in kind of reconciling, but it's say, one of the projects I'm working with, they say we want the Bibliothèque Nationale de France and the German National Library identifiers of the people in our database. I said, well, reconcile with Wikidata, find what the Wikidata identifiers are, then you can get those things you want and any other identifier in any of those other systems. So it's joining up, like I had that slide with all the different identifiers for Jane Austen. Don't be separate from that. So no, you have your own identifiers, but be able to link them to Wikidata, and maybe vice versa. Maybe share your set of identifiers and the links to your online entries to the thing with Wikidata to make links. Or sometimes what I do with people in a search project, I do a Sparkle query. Say somebody's got archaeological sites in Sicily. I'll ask Wikidata for archaeological sites in Sicily, and they'll say, well, that's incomplete. I've got some in my database. Great, right, that's the opportunity. You can add some, and then other people are adding some, other people are adding archaeological sites in Italy and other sites in Crete, and then we'll have something that's bigger than any one project or institution. So yeah, we can all add some stuff and share stuff. Not the whole database. I'm not saying dump all of your data into Wikidata. There's a surface level of what is the thing in this record, what kind of thing is it, what are its key relations to other things, where is there information about it, where is an authoritative source of information about it. Just that can enable us to create these maps, timelines, interesting visualizations, which then link to different databases, different institutions. If you've got a Word document, yeah, this is a frustration in that there is loads of knowledge and data that's publicly available, but it's in PDF. So it's a Word document, it's a table, so you can't query, you can't build a timeline with it. It's available to the public, it's not really available in the form that I can remix it and build things with it. There are tools to take a kind of table, a spreadsheet, and upload that. There's OpenRefine is great. OpenRefine is an open source, the older digital humanities people use it. That has Wikidata reconciliation built in. So you can put in a list of locations, London, Lisbon, Paris, wherever, and then say, well, give me the Wikidata identifiers for those locations, and then give me other properties, give me geonames, whatever those locations. So you could use that and similar tools to find missing things that aren't in Wikidata but should exist because they definitely do it. These people definitely are artists who exist. Talk to the Wiki friends after, because there's a variety of different tools to do this, and it depends on what form the data's in and what kind of software platform you're on. But yeah.
Good time for a couple of questions. You also want to ask Martin?
I was going to talk. I thought I might not have time, but I was going to talk just about something else. So I'm going to ask myself a question. Martin, what can we do to get facts from scholarly literature into this triple store database? There's a project going on within Cambridge University Library. It's not officially part of the university, but it's a fact mine. So what they do, it's kind of a software module built onto Wikidata, which scans open access literature for text relating to the thing you're looking at. So you look at Wikidata and you look at paracetamol. Well, it's no use searching searching a database for the string paracetamol, where we think things, not strings. Paracetamol has a chemical formula and a chemical identity and trade names, and there's about 400 names that paracetamol is known by. So wouldn't it be great if some tool searched a whole literature, searched millions of articles for the 400 different terms that this one thing is known by, and then showed you papers relevant to that, and then showed you an extract, like a paragraph from the paper, and said to the user, does this paragraph support a statement about paracetamol? This paragraph mentions paracetamol and liver failure. What relation does this paragraph state? So it's using human users to convert narrative text into facts that can be queried. And it could be for any, so you can set up your own dictionary of terms and things you're interested in. It doesn't have to be pharmaceuticals. You can, so if you're interested in suicide, you could have terms related to suicide and then search the literature about those terms and extract facts from it. So they say they think they can get 100 million facts out of scholarly lit, and this could be that could be revolutionise how people access that published knowledge. So another thing I want people to do, look into, create a dictionary for your field, maybe define a literature for your field and the key terms in your field and the key things that your field is about, and do a scan. And that's a kind of complicated project to explain, but it's like mind-blowing what it could potentially do. Rather than searching the literature, querying things, not strings. Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
I'd just like to ask you a question, actually. So you mentioned, and it was kind of a throwaway line at one point in your talk, actually, but I thought it was really relevant, is that all of the information you're talking about is publicly accessible. It's very open, very flexible. There's lots of tools that are associated with it. One thing that you kind of mentioned, though, was it's publicly available, but some of it is very difficult to find, and that's because of the poor design. Now, is this because of a lock-in element to the way that Wikimedia technology is designed, or are there other factors? That's A, and then B, what can we do about that?
Okay, Wikipedia isn't designed; it's evolved. in something very like biological evolution. So there is a system, but then somebody thought it would be good to bolt on, like, say, a page statistics module onto that system, and somebody thought it'd be good to have like a Wikidata module. People thought it'd be a good idea to have a quality scale and a notice board to assess sources. But these things are all built on. If it was designed now from the ground up, it would look completely different from how it does. We're using MediaWiki, which is a kind of a wiki, a document management system, for Commons, which is our media database. We wouldn't do that now if we were starting now. We'd use a media database to hold our media. So that causes problems. That gives us strengths. It makes like photojournalism, like a photo essay or a photo gallery, easy to make. But yeah, there's no overall. That's part of being an open system. So people can build on a tool, and it can have a distinct function, and it can kind of relate to, but not be part of the main system. And it can be difficult to find from. I show people Wikipedia articles and say, where's the quality scale, or where's the page view statistics, or where's the list of authors? They're there, it's just, you wouldn't know where to click. So it goes with, again, taking part in the discussions on Wiki, or talk to an experienced Wikimedian and they can tell you how to get out the interesting chunk of data that you're interested in. But it's integral to the way Wikipedia's come about. It's designoid rather than designed.
Yeah, so when I use Wikipedia and Wikimedia in my class projects, the one thing that always happens is that we get complaints about, well, it's not like social media, it's not like, it's really old. That's the other thing. Yeah. Because we're dealing with, basically teenagers who, they have a problem with old stuff sometimes, and grasping the relevance of old stuff. And this looks positively ancient to them.
And it's a technology from 1997, which hasn't been fundamentally rewritten in that time. And we have it's kind of a economic problem of, as a principal agent problem, where the people in whose interest the decision is taken aren't the people making the decision. So the decisions about the look of Wikipedia are kind of taken by the present community and the team. The people who stand to lose or gain are everybody, including people who are not presently engaged with Wikipedia in any way, and we're not hearing their voices. And this is another thing, like actively diversifying the community is a really important part of what we're trying to do. There's no simple solution to that, because that's a social problem. And we have this kind of factional thing, and there are people within Wikipedia really actively trying to change it and make it more relevant and shrug off this 1997 look. And some people are very attached to that because that's the thing that they've put their work into, and that works for them. Works for them on their device, on their broadband connection, and I'm going to tell them, no, that's you. Not everybody has has that experience of online things.
It's kind of like, I like what I know and I know what I like.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that idea of Wikipedia and Wiki technologies, 1997, now predates most of our undergraduates and their lifetimes. So that's a really interesting fact.
It's prehistoric to them,
Prehistoric to our students. And on that bombshell,
yes.
there, but I'm sure you've enjoyed that really interesting presentation, a fascinating discussion. So please join me in thanking Martin Poulter.
Thanks very much. Thank you all. Thanks.
So